Hello and welcome to Amantani Island. This is an island on Lake Titicaca, which is about 4,200 meters up. If I sound short of breath already, it's because it's a very, very hilly island, and even trying to think about where to start running is a challenge, because some of these hills are just incredibly fiercely steep. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie, this is probably going to be a bit of a mishmash between running and walking because it is so steep. I made an attempt at running the perimeter of the shoreline around the island, but that proved quite difficult because there really are no paths down there, and the beaches vary between pebbles and kind of rocky faces that are just, I wouldn't say impassable, but not easy to run a recording on. I don't know, I'm still in two minds about whether there's some footage I can mix in somehow. We'll see. Oh, yeah, my hope for today is that I can walk my way around or run my way around, depending on how accessible it is, to the community, which is about a third of the way around the island from here. I'll show you some of this island because it is pretty wonderful, and then depending on the quality of the light by that point, I might walk up and over past two Inca sites, but we'll just have to see. As I say, it's a very challenging landscape to be running or frankly even walking. Kind of amazed they could put down the concrete and have it set rather than just slop down the hill, because some of these hills, I mean, actually particularly on the lower climbs, I think they must be getting on for about 40 degrees. So as you can imagine, and as you can probably hear, I've got my work cut out for me. Whew. And like I say, trying to go around the perimeter proved just as daunting, and in some respects probably more dangerous, because the stonework was pretty sketchy. I made a good go of it, but I don't know, I just think I can get something better if I actually climb a bit higher up. I've got perhaps a naive theory that we'll find some paths that kind of level out and just follow the shape of the hills. But you know, only one way to find out, right? Well, I guess you could do the maths with Google Maps, but unfortunately I get about a G's worth of signal out here, and landline connections are just not a thing here. Been a nice change of pace. This will be my third night on the island tonight, third and final. And for me, I suppose, living that kind of millennial existence that focuses so much on digital technology, it's been a pleasure to be forcibly disconnected from the internet. It's actually afforded me the chance to read a book for pleasure rather than kind of educative material for a change. Something I'm not great at. So that's been awesome. Boy, boy, oh boy. Okay, I think things look a bit easier from here. So from Cusco, I stayed in Puno, which is a town on the edge of Lake Titicaca, and from there took a boat out to where we are now. Along the way I saw the Urus Reed Islands, which are pretty cool. You're struck by kind of the extent to which such things are now heavily designed with tourism in mind. And again, like I say, it's I can understand why that's something they'd want to capitalise on, but as one review put it, you know, having islands made of reeds kind of they end up being victims of their own success in a way, because all the tourists kind of want to see it or whatever, and all the guides will put on boats and so on, but whether in the end you're getting something even remotely real from that experience, real quote unquote, is another question. But the reason I was kind of anxious to get out and record running on Amantani is partly because when the tourist boats go away, if you choose to stay a bit longer, you know, it is relatively unspoilt and quite staggering. I mean, just up ahead, across the way, across the water, what you can see in the distance is Bolivia, and when I turn around, of course, what you'll be seeing is Peru. It is it gives some perspective to Lake Titicaca, and quite how awesome this kind of piece of landscape is, all this way up. Highest lake in the world, pretty sure, you know, and pretty flipping huge as well. When you run by the shoreline, it's almost like you're at sea. You know, you're at the seaside. Oh, okay. This running here is a bit more tolerable. Okay. So, you probably noticed that I'm trying to pronounce Titicaca the way it's supposed to be pronounced. Apparently it's not really taboo to use caca, because it kind of well, it carries the connotations that caca does, and and it's not how it would have been, rather it isn't how it is pronounced in Quechua, which is the native language on this island. So probably doing my best gringo attempt at that. What is extraordinary is that the language spoken on the Reed Islands, the Uros Reed Islands, which really are not far from where we are right now, is a completely different, older language than Quechua. Quechua is kind of the legacy of the Incas. It's their language, and I believe the other language is Amantani. Is it? I'll put the words up. I think it's definitely with an A and an M. But totally different language. Doesn't bear any resemblance to Quechuan. You think that's pretty extraordinary for two communities, two native communities. You know, this isn't what we would call kind of a social incursion from another country or anything like that. This is two traditional communities, but neither of whom speak the same language, but who are kind of in a stone's throw of each other. Quite extraordinary. The joke's on me a bit, having run about 2/3 of the perimeter of the island, realised it was actually a greater distance than I'd thought from when I'd been mapping it out in advance. Partly due to the heat, it was a very hot day yesterday, partly due to the terrain, which just slowed everything down, and all the contours that you go around on a perimeter of an island. It's not kind of a nice smooth circle, it's not a running track. So, you know, you might have a cove, and that cove might add 500 meters to a route that would otherwise only be 20 meters or something. You know, it's just got to take it as it comes. But yeah, sure enough, I kind of got to that 2/3 point and thought, well, how far have I actually come? I hadn't brought water because I'd assumed that I would have completed the lap of the island. And actually, unfortunately, I wasn't as far away as I thought I was. Now I realise that, but at the time I didn't. But the stadium we just ran past, I had seen from the heights, and there's a path that we'll be running past that takes you up there. So I kind of did the maths and thought, you know what, if I can get up to that place, I should be able to find my bearings fairly efficiently back to where I'm staying. So yeah, in the end, with hindsight, had I known that this route was really not so far from home base, it probably would have been quicker, far less stressful to just carry on this path. But there you go, hindsight is a wonderful thing. Ooh. So my understanding of Amantani is that it was kind of populated with a pre-Incan community, interpolated into the Incan empire along the way. Couldn't tell you if that was by fair means or foul. This is an interesting topic. There's a lot of history missing from what we could learn about the Incans, because they didn't really have a writing system.